Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. My name is Charles. When someone you love turns around and throws everything you've built together in your face, you're left with two options. Either you break down, or you stand up and do something about it. When my girlfriend, Allison, texted me that she found someone else and wanted nothing more to do with me, I made a move she never saw coming. And before the week was over, it was her lawyer calling me. I had met Allison through a female friend I trusted at a point in my life when things finally started making sense. I had been working at the firm for 3 years. I showed up, I did my work, and I made sure people could rely on me. Over time, that effort began to pay off. The higher-ups noticed. I got called in one afternoon by the senior partner, and after a very short but serious conversation, I walked out with a promotion letter in hand. Now, it wasn't some overnight miracle. I earned it every late night, every weekend spent reviewing contracts instead of relaxing. But still, it felt good. The promotion came with better pay, a monthly allowance, and even a company-issued SUV. It was sleek enough that when I parked it in front of my old apartment, it looked out of place. That's when I realized it was time to move. My life was moving forward, and I wanted everything around me to reflect that. I found a better place in a quieter neighborhood. I told this female friend I was open to meeting someone. A week or two later, she said, "I might know someone. She's a bit of a quiet type, but I think you two would get along." That's how I linked with Allison. From the moment we met, I felt something different. She was sweet, ambitious, and emotionally supportive in those early days. I'll be honest, part of why I gave her the benefit of the doubt early on was because of the friend who introduced us. I trusted her judgment. I believed that she wouldn't link me up with someone who wasn't solid. So I assumed Allison came pre-vetted. Months later, when our relationship started getting serious, Allison began going through some tough times financially. She'd say she was short on groceries that week or that she needed to sort out some minor bills. I didn't think much of it. I helped. It wasn't a burden, and I was happy to be able to make things easier for her. She told me one night while we were talking over dinner that she was getting tired of the corporate grind. Said the 9 to 5 world wasn't for her anymore. That she wanted something different. Something on her own terms. She had this dream of running an online store, selling fashion items, accessories, and lifestyle products. I nodded, encouraged her a bit, and asked her what the plan was. How she'd structure the store, how she'd market it. Just trying to understand her vision. But it wasn't until maybe a week or two later that I found out she had already quit her job. She hadn't mentioned a word of it to me beforehand. I remember her finally telling me, and I paused and looked at her, then asking, "Wait, what preparations did you make before quitting?" She told me she had saved up a little money. I asked how much. When she said the figure, I felt my heart sink. That money wouldn't have lasted her more than a month. Maybe 2 if she really stretched it. No steady source of income while she built the shop from the ground up. I pressed her gently, asking if she'd considered the time it usually takes for a business to break even, let alone make a profit. She brushed it off, told me not to worry, said she had a solid plan, and she was confident things would start moving in a few weeks. She sounded so sure of herself that, for a second, I actually doubted my doubts. But deep down, I had reservations. I've seen what failed businesses do to people. How quickly dreams can become debt. But I didn't push. I figured she'd prove me wrong. Well, she didn't. The online store flopped almost immediately. Sales weren't coming in. The products weren't moving. The money she thought would last stretched thinner by the week. Before long, her rent was overdue. Then one day, she called me crying because her car had been repossessed. I could see the fear and embarrassment in her eyes. She was clearly overwhelmed and spiraling. I wasn't going to stand there and watch someone I loved fall apart. So I told her to move in with me. I had space, and I was already paying for everything myself, so it just made sense. I also handed her the keys to my old car. It was still running fine, and since I was using the company's SUV, I didn't really need it. Not long after she moved in, I started receiving strange calls. At first, I ignored the numbers because they looked like spam. But one day, I picked up, and on the other end was someone saying, Your girlfriend owes us money. If she doesn't pay soon, we'll be taking legal action. I was blindsided. I had no idea who they were or how they even got my number. And more importantly, I had no idea Allison was in debt. She hadn't mentioned it. Not even a hint. I told them I'd look into it and ended the call. Then I tried calling her right away. No answer. I left a voice note needing answers. Hours later, she texted back. Said she was sorry, admitted the debt was real. Blamed it on the business failure. Said she was trying to handle it on her own. Then she sent me a voice note begging me to help her pay it off. She promised to pay me back when she figured things out. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't happy because of the secrecy. I would have understood if she'd come to me early. But to let it get to the point where strangers were calling me at work, threatening legal action, that rubbed me the wrong way. Still, I paid the debt. Eventually, she asked for a loan to restart the business. She came to me with a plan this time, told me what she'd learned from a first attempt, what she'd do differently, how she'd build slow and steady. I listened, and I gave her the money. She started using my old laptop. I didn't think twice about it. She needed it for work, and I wasn't using it. Over time, my apartment slowly turned into our place in her eyes. But in reality, I was the one handling every bill. She said she was focusing on rebuilding her brand and needed time to reinvest profits. I agreed. I was patient. I believed in her. After months of trial and error, things began to pick up. Her site started getting real traffic. Orders were coming in. People were tagging her business online. For the first time, it felt like her dream might finally have legs. I was genuinely happy for her. I'd always planned to marry her. That wasn't new, but I held off for a reason. Now that her business could pay its own bills and she no longer had to ask me for every little thing, I felt it was the right time. I didn't tell her, of course. Quietly, I reached out to her sister and told her what I was planning. I asked for her help in choosing a setting that felt like Allison, something that would catch her off guard in the best way. Meanwhile, I ordered a custom ring. It took a decent chunk out of my savings, but I didn't care. I was fully invested. But before all my plans could materialize, one night everything changed. We were both tired on that day. It had been a long day. I had just returned from work, and she had spent most of her time packing up orders. Neither of us felt like cooking, so I offered to order food. She usually handled that because she already had a DoorDash account set up, while I never bothered. I picked up her phone like I had done many times before. But while I was looking for the app, something caught my eye. There was Tinder, a dating app, sitting there in the app drawer. My first thought was more confusion than anything else. I opened it and scrolled through dozens of messages. Men are flirting with her. Some of them were telling her how beautiful she was. Some are asking to meet up. Some say things I won't repeat. And worst of all, she was replying. Although there was nothing too deep, it wasn't innocent either. She was on there regularly. I called her name. Allison. She came into the living room, drying her hands with a kitchen towel. I just asked, "What is this?" I held out the phone, open to the app. She glanced at it, then shrugged and said, "Oh, that? It's nothing. I don't meet anyone. I just like the attention sometimes." I couldn't make sense of what she was saying. I looked through the messages again, and no, it didn't seem like she had met up with anyone yet. But that wasn't the point. The point was, what if I hadn't found out? What if it went further next week? Or the week after that? What kind of person downloads a dating app for attention while living with the man planning to marry her? That night, I found the dating app on Allison's phone, and something inside me changed. It was a quiet kind of disappointment that crept in and made me question everything. We had a routine. No matter how long the day had been, I always kissed her goodnight. Always held her close before we drifted off. But that night, I couldn't bring myself to do it. I just lay there feeling hurt. I didn't even know how to pretend anymore. The next few days felt like walking through a minefield. Allison started acting differently, like she was looking for reasons to fight. She'd snap about what time I got home, question why I hadn't taken out the trash yet, or complain that I didn't notice the groceries she bought. It wasn't like these things had never happened before, but now, They came with this edge I hadn't seen in her before. I started to wonder if she was trying to make me out to be the bad guy, just to make herself feel better about what she'd done. Maybe if I looked like the problem, she could sleep better at night. When I tried to talk to her, I told her that saying the app is just for harmless attention doesn't mean it's not a betrayal, because I couldn't wrap my head around that excuse. I told her that if she needed validation from strangers, we had a bigger issue. That's when the tables turned. She called me controlling, said I was too rigid and insecure. She flipped it all on me, like I was the one who'd crossed the line. One evening, we had a big fight. It started like the others, but when the exchange of words got heated, she grabbed her purse, her keys, and walked out. I sat on the couch for a while, thinking she'd cool off and come back like she usually did. But the hours dragged on, and the silence stretched longer. Around midnight, I sent her a simple text. "Where are you?" I got no reply. I stayed up, checking my phone every few minutes, trying not to jump to conclusions. The next morning, my phone buzzed. It was a message from her. It read, "I found someone else. I want nothing more to do with you. Don't call or text me again." My stomach dropped as I read. At first, I felt this wave of rage. Was she cheating on me all this time? Was this guy around when I was clearing her debts and putting her back on her feet? Or was this just her way of twisting the knife? I felt every emotion at once. But I didn't let it control me. Instead of blowing up her phone or demanding answers, I typed 3 words, "As you wish." And that was it. I didn't have the energy to argue with someone who had already moved on in her heart. I came home from work later that day and stepped into an apartment. It was obvious she had entered the house while I was at the office and packed everything she owned and some of my things too. She left with the car I lent her. The laptop she was using? Taken. Even some minor electronics and household items I had bought myself had vanished. That's when it really hit me. Her message wasn't a bluff. This wasn't temporary. She meant it. And in that moment, it was clear that I was done being the nice guy. I picked up my phone and texted my lawyer. I told him, "We need to talk. First thing tomorrow." Because if she wanted to end things like this, she was going to learn that I wasn't someone you could just walk over and forget. Not without consequences. The following morning, I walked into my lawyer's office. I sat across from him and told him about things my girlfriend had taken, the car, the laptop I let her use, and the debt trail tied to my pockets. I told him plainly, I want to recover everything. I worked hard for everything I gave her. And if she thinks she can leave like that and keep it all, she has another thing coming. He listened, took notes, and without needing much prompting, began drafting a formal letter. It demanded the immediate return of the car and laptop and repayment of the outstanding debts. It clearly stated that if she refused to comply, we would pursue legal action. I reviewed it, signed off, and then nothing. She didn't respond, not even a reply to acknowledge that she received it. Days passed. My lawyer followed up once. Still no answer. She was either ignoring it because she thought I wouldn't follow through, or because she believed I had no backbone. That's when we filed a formal complaint with the court. The court issued a summons, and it wasn't long before I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I picked up, thinking maybe it was a work call or someone from a firm. The voice on the other end introduced himself. He was her lawyer, and already trying to get ahead of the situation. His exact words were, "We need to discuss the situation. You can't just take everything." I took a breath and replied, "Actually, I can. And I will. In fact, I intend to take everything that's legally mine, and, if possible, more. Now, if you want to talk further, speak to my lawyer." Then I ended the call. From that moment on, everything went through legal channels. The court dates were set, documents submitted, and to her surprise, I had all the receipts, literally. Proof of ownership for the car. Purchase receipts for the laptop. Text messages where she acknowledged her debts and promised repayment. Bank statements showing the transfers. My lawyer said, "You've got a solid case. Don't budge." That was when Allison tried to shift the tone. She reached out through her lawyer this time, asking if we could settle privately. Suddenly, the same person who walked out like I was disposable wanted to negotiate. I simply told her she could return everything and reimburse me for every dime I spent clearing her debts. And since she ignored the letter and made me take the legal route, she could also cover my legal fees, or we'd proceed with the case. Eventually, she returned the car and the laptop. But when it came to the money, she said her business wasn't doing well and asked for time. She even tried appealing to my emotions, telling me she just needed some breathing room. I didn't argue. I told my lawyer to continue with the court process. The judge eventually set up a structured payment plan that she would have to stick to. By the time the court finalized the payment plan, I wasn't even angry anymore. Allison made the first payment on time. I'll give her that. A small part of me wondered if she'd follow through with the whole arrangement. Either way, I kept my distance and let the legal process run its course. But then the second month rolled around. I was sitting at my desk at the office, just wrapping up some paperwork, when I saw her name pop up on my phone. I paused for a second, thinking what it could be. When I opened the message, it was a voice note. I played it, and she was trying to sound warm again. She said she was sorry, said she regretted how she ended things, and that maybe we didn't have to be enemies. "Can we at least be friends?" she asked, saying the whole legal stuff made her feel cold and distant, like we were strangers now. I listened quietly. It was surreal hearing her try to pretend like the damage she did was just a bad breakup. I didn't respond with anger. I just texted back, "Please just focus on paying what you owe. No explanations needed." When I needed those explanations, you stayed silent. She didn't stop. Over the next few days, I got more messages. She started bringing up old memories. She was trying to pull me back emotionally, as if reminding me of the good times would erase how she left me. But I was tired. Tired of being used. Tired of being someone's emotional safety net when things didn't work out with their plan B. I didn't even have the energy to argue anymore. I just wanted this chapter of my life closed. So I typed one final message. All future communication should go through my lawyer. That's where this ends. And I meant it. Now I'm focused on moving forward, because I finally understand that protecting your peace sometimes means letting people deal with the consequences of their own decisions. I was a supportive partner once, but now I'm a man who knows what he deserves and what he no longer owes anyone.